Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am playing in my tiny Art by Marlene journal. This is called, I think it's called the handy size journal. The pages are really nice and small. Perfect for what I thought would be a quick project, but it turned out it wasn't a quick project at all. It did take quite some time to finish. I think I was busy for about an hour with it. I really wanted to use the houses in this new cut and paste collage book of Marlene. So when I looked at the book at first, I really liked the houses, but I wasn't quite sure what to do with them. And so on this day, I decided that I would just play around and see what I can come up with. So first I have watered down some mermaid paint, and this is ballet. And then I'm going to give it a quick dry. I really like to water down my paints to use as a watercolor, the acrylic paint, instead of watercolor paint. And you'll see just now after this drying time, I'm going to do the same with a yellow paint. And if I had to do that with watercolors, I'm pretty sure that the bottom layer would have shifted if I put the new layer over the top, and the colors wouldn't be, I guess, as true as it is, or I don't know how to say it, but I like the fact that I can set the colors in between the layers, and I know that whatever is going to go over the top is not going to move because it's acrylic and not watercolor paint. The yellow over the blue made a really pretty green. I really like that, the way it turned out. And now I'm going to grab my hexagon star stencil, and I'm just going to mix up some other colors of Marlene's, and I'm just going to cover the whole page with those colors. So this was Hot Curry and Boom. It is the orange and the neon orange. Then I go in with the pink, Funky, I think it's called, with a little bit of oh gosh, I can't remember that other pink, but it's a light pastel pink, and green, the neon green with a little bit of Kermit. So the reason I mix those colors together is to try and make the neon paint a little bit more opaque than they are, so they can stand up on the page and you'll be able to see them. I'm not washing my sponge in between or using a different sponge in between. I do want the colors to blend on the sponge and give kind of like gradient effect. So up to this point, I was really happy with my background. I thought it looked really nice. And I think if I had to take a picture of the background, the way it looked now, it could be really nice to use as a collage background, or, you know, as a card front or something of the sort. So always remember, if you make something that you really, really like, take a picture of it, because you can always print it out and use it again. So I thought that the spooky houses would look cute on the very bright background. And now that I look at it, I wish I had stuck to the spooky houses, but I didn't. I did change my mind, as I often do when I don't have much of a plan going on. And now I'm going to grab out my grungy texture stamp, because I wanted to give these houses a bit of a shelf, I guess, to sit on top of. So I've got this border stamp, and I'm going to stamp that directly onto the page, and then it is there forever, and I have to make it work. I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to do the border, but then I decided, you know what, the only way to make this work is to just do it and work with it. All right, I'm giving it a dry because it is archival ink and they do stay wet for a little bit. And now I'm going to stencil out some white stars in the background, also using one of Marlene's stencils. Not sure what it's called, but I really, really like it. And I'm actually using my Amsterdam acrylic paints in titanium white, just because it is very opaque and it will stand up nicely on the page. Whereas if I used Marlene's paint in lace, it wouldn't have stood up quite as nicely on the background because her white paint is more of a blending white than a very opaque and crisp white. So I chose this one instead. And I am going to give it a dry. And then I'm going to grab out some of my colored inks. I don't own a lot. I think I own those two and maybe a pink and a blue one. I don't use them very often, but I do like it when I use them. So maybe I should take them out and use them a bit more often. I went in with the bigger square looking stamp and then also this tiny one. And I'm just, you'll see me keep auditioning those houses, bring them onto the page, take them off, bring them on to see where I need to add more details or what's going to get covered up in the end. So I took out this little Miss Piggy stamp set from Marlene's January release because it has this tiny flowers on, which I really liked, and I thought that they looked cute in between the houses. And I did stamp them on different heights. So what I did just then is just extended the stems and added a couple more leaves so they weren't floating mid-air. Okay, now comes the changing of my mind. I thought that the spooky house there on the right was a little bit too big for the page. I felt like it covered up quite a bit of my background. So I chose to get another one, which is shorter, but I think it's still fat. I think it's still as wide as the other one, but it's a little bit shorter, so the background shows a little bit more. And then I'm going to glue them all down with Marlene's sticky glue. So these houses actually came from different pages in the book and they still work together well. So I don't think that you are restricted to using just the houses on one page. You can absolutely blend them together and make them work. I wanted to add little lanterns at the bottom there, but the lanterns were a little bit too big. I think if I had done this in my bigger journal, it would have worked really well. So I might remake it in my bigger journal. So now I'm just going through Marlene's Paper Elements book, and I'm just going to find a couple of things that I thought could hang or dangle from that little shelf there. So first I went with hearts, and I think then I went with stars, and then I went with a couple of different things. So I took a little bit of shuffling about and auditioning pieces and trying to figure out which ones are going to work and which are not. But we got there in the end after a little while. I'm also looking at the colors of the houses to make sure that I don't put something down there that's completely like random. Like I don't think I've got a green something there because there aren't really green in the houses. And then I'm just going to glue them down again with Marlene's glue. And I really love Marlene's glue there. It's just so nice. It dries clear, so if there's spillage underneath, you don't see it. And it dries quite quickly as well, so it's a really nice one. I'm making little strings for them to hang on, and you'll see that I've got 5 little goodies hanging down there and 3 houses, so always work in odd numbers. The eye just really likes odd numbers. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of color to those stamped images. Okay, I decided to color in the centers of that little border with white. You know how much I love a black and white stripe or black and white dots, so I thought that would be my black and white element for this page. And then I'm also going around all of those stars with a white pen and just outlining them. It just helps to pop them out a little bit more. And then a little bit of Stabilo All pencil just around the edges. This just defines the houses and it makes them separate from the background. So it really makes them pop off the page and makes them look almost 3D, I guess. And then I'm going in with my paint pens and I'm just going to refine some of the black lines, because whenever something is printed in black, it's never printed as a true black. And I like to add just some line work here and there just to make sure that the black is black. And I do the same on the elements at the bottom there. And I will also do a little shadow just at the bottom of each of those elements, just to make them look like they are floating there. Okay, just a little bit more white details, and I'm going to make the white dots in the center of that border a little bit whiter, and then I started adding some white line work, and really I'm just refining things at the moment to make sure that they all look right and look like they belong together. I found a little sticky quote and it says, "Avoid stress, stay home and craft." And I'm a firm believer in that, and I thought that that was a perfect quote for this little page. I am going to go around with my Stabilo All pencil just to help them pop out from the background. And I think we are almost there with this page. So a really cute little page. It took longer than I thought that it would, but I really like it in the end. I am just adding a little bit more of a star at the border there because I felt like that spot was a little bit empty. And I'm making some sprinkly bits, so just some tiny little circles and dots just here and there. So I like to call them sprinkles, and I'm just adding some sprinkles in between the stars. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching my videos. Please subscribe if you are new here, and let me know about yourself. I really like hearing from you guys. Thanks for being here, and I will chat to you again very soon. Bye.